What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of The Lawyer You Know. And today we're going to break down day 4 of Brian Walsh's trial. Did the Commonwealth finally make some headway on motive? Which, yes, it's not something they need to prove, but it's usually very, very important to get to an intentional, premeditated homicide, which is exactly what they're trying to prove in this case. One of the more interesting witnesses that I've been waiting for took the stand today. We're going to break down his testimony, a bunch of other witnesses, and we'll talk about which ones were necessary or not in our estimation. And then more commentary from the judge. The judge read one of her rulings in the beginning of court today that I found very interesting and gives us a little look into what's coming in the future and something we've been waiting for. Like, are they going to prove this? Because right now it doesn't seem like they're going to prove it. Seems like the judge thinks we're going to get there. Will the jury agree? Make sure you guys hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Let's get to it. All right, so usually I like to just jump right into it, and you guys know that I don't like to waste your time. But I'm going to assume this is not a waste of time because this is a pretty great story, okay? So I just landed here in Colorado. I don't know if you can see the window behind me of what I'm dealing with, but there's like a foot of snow on the ground. And I'm an idiot. I'm from Florida, right? So like, what do you expect? Typical Florida man stuff. I show up in my Lusso shoes, which are basically Crocs. I knew it had snowed like days ago or yesterday in Colorado. It was like 30 degrees today, which is freezing, but I don't know why I thought the snow would be gone. It's not at all. And I get dropped off and I'm walking down to my cabin with my bag and my backpack on, and I take a step and I slip right into a huge pile of snow, soak my entire like sweatshirt, sweat pants, socks, everything I had on. It was literally like the scene from The Holiday, which is one of my wife's favorite Christmas movies. I've never seen it beginning to end, but I did see that part. It was absolutely hilarious. I wish I could have caught it on camera. I hope somebody saw it and got a good laugh. But that's what we were dealing with right before we got online here, logged in to talk to you guys about Brian Walsh's case. I'm freezing. My feet are freezing. There's a nice heater on in here, though. So we're starting to thaw out, starting to feel better. I'm going to go walk downtown, find somewhere to eat, watch the game after we're done with our stream. But let's get down to business, okay? Let's get down to business here and talk about Brian Walsh's trial. I'm not built for this, by the way. I'm not built for snow, okay? I'm going to be slipping, sliding all over the place. I did bring another pair of shoes. We'll see how they work because the Crocs ain't going to cut it. They're just not going to cut it. Okay, so no, I'm not in any pain. It was a big puff ball of snow. Literally, it was like a foot of snow I fell in. I have no idea how. I thought it was going to be like hard packed in like ice and I could just step on it and walk. No, my foot went straight through it, slipped when it hit the bottom. It is what it is. We're all good. We're here. We're feeling great. I love cold weather to visit, not to live in. Okay, so we're going to jump in with the beginning of the day today. I see Rebecca's here, said, miss you all. Rebecca, excited about the game tonight, Cowboys game. I'm excited. I hope the over hits and there's lots of scoring to make that fun. Having trouble seeing all of the, oh, there we go. Rebecca has gifted 5 Lawyer You Know memberships as well. Thank you, Rebecca. So we're going to get to the very beginning of the day today when the judge starts to talk about some decisions that she's made, how she's going to handle them, and why she made the certain decisions, especially when it came to William Fasto's texts, who is the person Anna Walsh was having an affair with. Let's take a listen.
Statute, as you know, is written in a way that the very first time that this concept of imprisonment punishable or a crime punishable by life imprisonment, it's not a statute where there's a section that, oh, if you lie in relation to a police officer in relation to investigation that does not trigger a life felony, blah, blah, blah. And that's punishable by.
Sorry, the Fasto thing is the second thing she talks about. The first thing she talks about is whether or not she's going to sentence Brian Walsh on the 2 charges he pled guilty to. So I messed up that intro here. So what she's talking about now is what should the sentence be? Should he have the enhancement to 20 years because he lied to police about a life felony? The defense put in their memorandum that he could potentially, but they're saying, Judge, we want to do more research. The judge is like, I'm still considering, should it be 10 years? Should it be up to 20 years? Is it a life felony? I have to wait to make that decision. Is she going to sentence him now or after the verdict comes in?
Maximum 10 years. And then there's an alternate provision that says if you lie to a police officer in connection with a crime that's a life felony, it's 20 years. The first time that life felony is mentioned in that statute is in the very tail end of it, when it's setting forth the potential punishments for the conduct. And as a result of that, in order to take a plea on that charge, which I did, the defendant only has to admit that he lied in connection with an investigation. And so that's what he did. He lied in connection with an investigation. It seems to me the enhanced penalty, I'll call it enhanced, the higher maximum penalty of 20 years, which is triggered when an individual misleads the police in connection with a crime that is punishable by life imprisonment.
So she's doing this analysis in her head, and we're going to see the answer she comes to. I disagree with where she comes. I really like this judge, by the way. And I think she's really thoughtful. And I understand why she's kicking the can down the road. I might do the same thing if I was a judge, but just between us girls, right? We're here to talk about the law. We're here to see where there are some disagreements, some different ways to think about things. She is going to say here that we don't know if this is a life felony yet until the jury makes a decision. Are you going to convict him of a life felony? And so she's going to kick the can down the road and not make this decision until after trial. I read the law in a way that this is an investigation into a life felony. He was charged with a life felony, first-degree intentional homicide. And because he lied in an investigation into a crime that is a life felony, I believe the enhancement should be involved. I don't know if she disagrees, but she's saying she's not sure, so we might as well wait, because she doesn't want to have a problem where she sentences him to 20 years and then he's either not guilty or guilty of a lesser included that's not a life felony. And then the defense would have the argument, Judge, you sentenced him to a life felony and it wasn't a crime that was punishable by a life sentence. But I believe it was, because that's the crime investigated, that's the crime charged. I don't know that the law says it has to be convicted, a crime that ends up being convicted of a life felony, because then you would only ever be able to arrest somebody for misleading police after somebody's been convicted of a life felony, which is not how I read the statute at all. But again, differing minds here. Kudos to you for not having flip-flops on. Yeah. So I wasn't fully prepared, but I wasn't that bad. You should try Alaska. If I did Alaska, I would definitely be more prepared. Definitely. Jen, thank you for gifting 5 Lawyer You Know memberships. All right. Let's keep listening to the judge here and her reasoning.
Then becomes an issue for the court to decide. We could debate as to what standard. It almost feels like a subsequent offense type scenario, but it's not. That's not how it's set up. But it seems to me that the time at which I should determine that is when this jury has spoken about whether or not the defendant has been found guilty or not of any life felony, and not now. Because it could end up in a very perverse situation where I sentence him to an illegal sentence if the jury came back and found out and told me he's not guilty to a life felony. So I am going to put off the sentencing on the 2 charges until I hear from the jury on their verdict on the murder charge, so that I have the benefit of that jury verdict when I decide this issue. And I encourage the parties to continue to research whether or not the Commonwealth has an obligation to prove that he lied in connection with an investigation that was punishable by life imprisonment at a sentencing, and how
that was punishable by life in prison, not already punished somebody to life in prison, because that would be a different rule, right? Northwest said, lesson, lie to avoid life felony, only get 10 years. Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's how. Now, of course, if he gets convicted of second degree or manslaughter, he's still going away for a long, long time, plus another 10 or 20 years for these crimes or even more. So he's still going away for a long time if he gets convicted of a lesser included. But generally speaking, in the law, we don't want to encourage lying about things and trying to cover them up. Usually we want to really punish hard for that and enhance that for people that do it. So that doesn't jive in the interests of justice. Rebecca said, miss you all. Peter, thank you for being you. Thanks for your time. It is cold as heck in North Dakota, and we also have snow on the ground. Oof, I've never been to North Dakota. It just sounds cold. It just sounds cold. And Rebecca said she likes this judge, well-grounded. I like the judge too.
you do that? Is it through an evidentiary hearing?
I like how she gives them hints, how she makes decisions when she needs to, how she really reads and tries to dig into the evidence, but she also admits, you guys know the evidence better than I do, which is always true when the lawyers are digging into the case.
And to what standard? Now, if the jury's verdict is one way, it would seem to me that the Commonwealth could met out that burden if they get a conviction. And if they don't, it seems to me that it becomes a bigger task for the Commonwealth if the burden of proving that part for the higher penalty is beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's where I stand with regard to that. Yes,
Me?
did you say something?
No, I was just whispering to Mr. Tipton.
Oh, I also want to the defense is no longer agreeing to all the William Fasto messages coming in. Is that right?
I'm not trying to hedge, but the court indicated that you were inclined to perhaps keep some out. And so my intention is, if any, then all, but I think Mr. Walsh deserves the benefit of knowing what the court's ruling is before I have to negotiate with the Commonwealth. So I apologize for that, but I am asking for some guidance there.
All right. That's like a,
Well, actually, can we approach? That might be
well,
easier.
no.
No. Okay.
So I'm not giving an advisory opinion. And so here's what I'm going to say to you with regard
It
to,
sounds like the defense was like, well, why don't you tell us which ones you think are irrelevant, Judge, and we'll object to those and get those out. She's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go piece by piece. If you guys want to, fine. What we're going to do is let them come in at trial. And if you have an objection, we'll object at the time. By the way, it's getting like pitch black dark here. I don't know why I didn't know what time it was going to get dark, but it's only 5 o'clock. But again, we're not in Florida anymore. So it's going to be really interesting me walking downtown to get something to eat in the pitch black snow. So pray for me tonight, everybody.
that. I'm going to read something in the record because I want it to be clear under what authority I am allowing those text messages in, so the record is complete. And this ruling relates to both the my thought process with regard to the William Fasto text messages, to the extent that they reveal some state of mind evidence of Anna Walsh, and also, just so that I'm clear, these thoughts equally apply to the reason why on an earlier motion in limine with regard to the expected testimony of Alyssa Kirby, why I believe these state of mind statements are coming in. So just bear with me while I read this into the record. And this is my oral order on the motion to admit the text messages between Anna Walsh and William Fasto. And
So this is why the judge let in the text messages between Anna Walsh and William Fasto. We know it's state of mind, but listen, this is something we've been talking about the whole time that I've said, I don't see it. How are they going to prove this? I don't think they've proved this. The judge disagrees, and we're going to hear exactly the language she uses, which is the gray areas in the law that we allow prosecutors to have a really wide leeway in trying to prove crimes. I get it. We want to put the bad guys away, but tell me if you agree or disagree. And I also think it's looking forward that more is going to come in than is at the beginning of the day today.
again, same reasoning for what I expect at some point will become a similar issue with regard to a conversation Anna Walsh had with Alyssa Kirby, I think on the evening of 10/12/29/22. The Commonwealth filed a motion in limine to enter text messages between William Fasto and Anna Walsh as evidence of Anna's state of mind. Quote, an exception to the hearsay rule permits the admission of evidence of a murder victim's state of mind as proof of the defendant's motive to kill the victim, end quote. Commonwealth versus Castano, 478 Mass 75 at 85, 2017. Such evidence is admissible, quote, when and only when there also is evidence that the defendant was aware of that state of mind at the time of the crime and would.
So that's the gripe. Was he aware of the affair, right? That motive. I'm going to answer a couple questions here real quick. Lucy said, how does heat of the moment differ from premeditation? Heat of the moment is like instant reaction. You walk in, you see something, you do it. You end somebody's life. You walk in on your spouse cheating. That's the kind of textbook example. The other one is some reflection, some thought, some planning. It can be brief. It can be a short period of time. And the real answer is the difference sometimes depends on the decision maker. A prosecutor, which one do they think it is based on the evidence? And then eventually, what can you convince a jury of? Joanne, Peter, watched the trial all day long. Wow, so much to say. The lover, the text messages, Yeah, we're going to get to all of it. Michelle said, I don't agree with you here. She still has discretion with sentencing. Yeah, that's not at all what we're talking about. The judge is not talking about her discretion. I'm not talking about her discretion. I'm talking about whether or not she can even go to 20 years. She's saying she doesn't think she can go to 20 years unless he is convicted of a life felony. Michelle said, I think it matters if he gets convicted because it's almost like an aggravating factor. It's not. It's not the way I see it. The way I see it is, what box do you put this in? Was an investigation into a felony punishable by life? I think the answer is yes. She's almost changing it to say, and it sounds like you agree with her, which she's a judge, so you're probably in better shape agreeing with her than me, but it's almost like she's saying it has to be a felony that is punished by life, right? Like it has to have already happened to where they're convicted of a life felony. And that would be interesting. That would be different to me. But again, we can differ. And that's what makes it fun. Maria said, sorry for laughing and we'll be praying. Thank you, Maria. And I don't care. Laugh. I love when people laugh at me. So, okay. So let's hear what she thinks about whether or not Brian Walshe knew about the Fasto affair and Anna Walsh and all of the state of mind evidence that's coming in.
Be likely to respond to it. Period. End of quote. Commonwealth versus Qualls, 425 Mass 163, 167, 1997. There need not be direct evidence that the defendant learned of the victim's state of mind, so long as the jury reasonably could have inferred that he did learn of it. Citing again to Castano, 478 Mass at 8.
Citing that the jury could reasonably infer, because we know what you can argue is facts, especially in closing argument, or reasonable inferences. That's a big deal. That's a gray area. That's where you can give prosecutors a really wide latitude. And I don't really think there's been a lot that's come in that's a reasonable inference that he knew from the first 3 days of trial. But will that change today on day 4 when it comes to motive? And Lucy said, Brian Walshe knowing about the affair doesn't necessarily mean he premeditated the crime. I agree with you completely. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but I think it's helpful than if he has no motive or he never knew about it or anything like that. I definitely think it's helpful. Rebecca said, you got to suck up the cold weather if you travel to Colorado and go Cowboys. Oh, yeah, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm here for a board meeting for a nonprofit Christian organization. That's tomorrow. I'm leaving on Saturday, so I'm not going to be here very long. I'm going to enjoy the snow and the cold weather. That's why I'm going to go for a walk tonight, breathe it in, chap my lips, and just rock and roll.
5. In this case, there is evidence from which the jury reasonably could infer that the defendant saw the text messages exchanged between William Fasto and Anna Walsh. Specifically, during his interviews with the police on January 4th, 2023, Brian Walsh told detectives that sometimes Anna's iMessenger comes up on his phone and that he had seen messages people were leaving for Anna. That is at the 1/4/23 interview transcript at page 30.
So she's bringing in some scenarios where if he saw some messages, maybe he would have known because of this, but I think there's more to come in today's evidence.
During his January 7th, 2023 interview, Brian Walsh told police that Anna took a bunch of photos on New Year's Eve and that she sent one to William Fasto around 10 o'clock. That can be found in the interview of 1/7/23 transcript at 86. And during his January 8th, 2023 interview, Brian Walsh told the detectives that they could get the exact time that his son went to bed on New Year's Eve based on the time Anna texted Fasto the photo. That may be found on the 1/3/23 interview transcript at page 7. From such evidence, which accurately noted the time Anna sent the photo to William Fasto, it is reasonable to infer that the defendant had seen her text message exchange. Contrary to the defendant's contention.
I think that's fair. Based on those facts and inferences, I wouldn't get there if I was a jury. You definitely need more to convince me, but there's more coming today.
The text messages at issue contain some evidence of Anna's state of mind at the time of the crime. In particular, she sends messages regarding her feelings of confusion in her married life, her intimate relationship with Fasto, and her desire to make future plans with Fasto. While there was some discussion of redacting portions of the messages that are not relevant to the state of mind evidence, and I will reserve ruling on those as I now know the parties' positions has changed. I will reserve ruling on those. I continue to believe that there are certain messages that are not relevant to Anna's state of mind. And if the defendant objects during the proceeding of Mr. Fasto's testimony to those, I will rule on those real time, as we do in many cases. So that's that.
All right. So that's her answer. That's what she thinks. You can let me know if you agree or disagree. Then we get probably the number one witness I've been waiting for outside of Brian Walsh himself, of course, and that is William Fasto, the man Anna Walsh had an affair with. I want to know, okay? And you don't really have to hold back, okay? Try not to be like a jerk to anybody personally. But what were your thoughts when listening to this? Because this is the victim in a case, and they're going to talk about a blatant affair that she had with 3 young kids and her husband at home to a jury. Lots of people just generally out there hate cheating, hate affairs. And Brian Walsh looks like a jerk now, the stuff he Googled, all that stuff, right? But in the way this evidence was presented, I think there's a chance that there are some jurors that are like maybe side-eyeing the victim in a criminal case, which is not usually good. There's no perfect victim. We talk about this. We talked about it when we prosecuted cases. We had some very difficult victims sometimes. But what did it make you think? What did it make you feel about the case, if anything? Does the judge consult with other judges about these sorts of circumstances, or is she on her own? I mean, she can, but it's not normal that they go consult with other judges every decision that they make. Rebecca said, I don't understand why she's got to make calls on a case that hasn't even been heard yet. Don't understand why she's got to make. So they were asking her to make a call on something that's already been pled. So technically it's already been heard and done. PJ said, get Dion to replace Norvell. FSU class of 99. Go Noles, go Noles, go Noles. PJ, I'm not emotionally ready to talk about this yet. Just going to be honest, especially with our basketball team having a rough couple games. I just need a break. Still sporting my Florida State gear because it's all I wear because I love them. Okay, so Fasto is a real estate broker in D.C. He repped them in the purchase of their home. They closed and on the house, and immediately he and Anna became friends. Then they became confidants. They shared each other's struggles. To me, what was interesting is when he defined those struggles, it was his marital problems, and you would think he would say her marital problems, but he didn't. He said his marital problems and her dealing with legal troubles in the family at home. That made me be like, huh. So did she not have marital problems when she met Fasto and then, fell in love with him or whatever, or in like with him, whatever you want to call it? I don't know. Anna was really active and exercised a lot, AKA she's healthy. They get that in. They communicated daily. He never met her kids and she never met his kids. Also interesting. Relationship got more serious over the summer. They talked about her going home for sentencing. He was seeing other people, but then stopped seeing other people. They started spending holidays together, which I thought was interesting as well. Some with a family at home and kids at home. They spent Thanksgiving together, Christmas Eve together. And then this I thought was interesting. Anna was the breadwinner, and she and Brian kind of got in an argument about some money he spent on sports memorabilia. So is that going to perk up some maybe financial issues, some fighting between them? They also plan to go on a trip for New Year's for themselves, potentially, and be together for dinner on January 4th. And when they were going to meet on January 4th, this is what he said they were supposed to talk about.
January 3rd.
And when did you return from Idaho?
I believe I came back very early the morning of January 4th. I think it was probably right around like midnight or 1 or 2 a.m.
And did you have plans to celebrate New Year's with Anna?
I did.
And when did you make those plans?
When I was in Idaho and she was in Cohasset.
And what were your plans for? When were your plans for?
Our plans were to have dinner on January 4th to celebrate New Year's and discuss our 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plans.
And discuss our 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plans. I felt that kind of, I don't know if that jived with some of what he testifies to later. There were some things that he testified to on direct that I thought were very, very different on cross. And we're going to listen to a chunk of direct. We're going to listen to a chunk of cross. But 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plan certainly sounds like you're going to be together. You're going to leave your other, spouses or whatever because he wasn't divorced. He was separated. 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plan. Okay. That's what they planned on talking about in the dinner on January 4th. Rebecca said, I laugh at Peter all the time. However, chat, and Peter, I have to leave to go watch this game. Go Cowboys. Go Cowboys. Thank you, Rebecca.
And what had you and Anna discussed about your future together?
We'd had a number of conversations about what a life together might look like, what merging two families would look like, how that might work. But I'd always said to Anna that she needed to figure out how she wanted things to be with Brian and what she wanted to look like for her life before.
So he told her she had to figure out what she wanted to do with Brian first. So it wasn't like I'm leaving him, I hate him, he's abusive, whatever. I just think about what this case would be like without the Google searches and without him lying to the police. Like, I think, okay, let's put it this way. Let's say what he said was true, that he woke up and she had a sudden death, unexpected, unexplained death. I think he would have been fine. I think he could have called the cops, had them show up. Obviously, if the autopsy helps him, great. If it doesn't, everybody was going to testify she loved him. Affair or not, she wanted people to see the best in him. She was trying to work it out. Every single witness that testifies says something to the effect that, yeah, I knew they were planning on all moving to DC together. That's why they got this house. That's why they put stuff in it for the kids and for him. That's why he couldn't sign a long-term lease. That's why she had to change, where she was taking bar classes or whatever. I mean, this evidence all seems like this was maybe out of character for him. But then you have the Google searches, the lies, the video cameras, the text messages. You got so much other evidence that really changes the way you look at this case.
Or, we could make any sort of commitments or decisions.
And did you have dinner reservations for January 4th?
I did.
Did you have dinner on January 4th?
I did not.
What was
Because she never made it, right? Music to My Soul said, I think there's an argument to be made. It was technically only a missing person investigation when he lied. But of course, that was because he lied. Well, and because of what he did with the body. Kind of a combo. Ms. Vicky, about to disappoint you. Oh no, Ms. Vicky, don't start with that. I'd be doing some reverse jury nullification if I was a juror and heard what he did to her body. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but you have to realize there's a separate crime for that, which he's pled guilty to. The jury might not know that, but there's a separate crime for that, and that's not what they're being asked to decide here. Pilates law. Ooh, it's perfect for this case. This judge and prosecutor are head and shoulders above Karen Reed's, organized and ready. Latley was probably the only one who agreed to take it. Crazy Cat Queen. Peter, drink lots of water. People don't realize you can get dehydrated at elevation. Even with the cold, it will help to prevent altitude headaches. Thank you, and I always remember to do this. Chug it. Just chug the water. Okay, so a couple things. Looking at the chat, there are mixed reviews on two things. On the affair, some people are like, yeah, I didn't like it. I hate it. It makes it harder for this case, Not that it's justification for taking someone's life at all, ever. Don't get that twisted. But it does kind of make you look at everybody or some of the parties differently. And then number two, mixed reviews on him. Not everybody loved him. Not everybody thought he was super credible. Not everybody thought he was the star witness for the Commonwealth. Like I kind of thought he might be.
the last contact that you had with Anna Walsh?
I received a text message from Anna. It was a Happy New Year's message right around the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, East Coast time.
Did you respond to her?
I believe I did.
And then did you send her anything?
The following day, I had sent her a photo of me showing one of my children how to ski. I'd sent her, I think, a waving hand emoji. I think I'd sent a question mark query and then a couple of other texts over the next day or two that went unresponsive, that were not responded to.
Did you try calling her?
I did.
When was that?
I believe I tried calling her on January 2nd, and it went straight to voicemail. I tried that a couple times, and then I called her from a landline, thinking that she may have blocked my cell phone.
That was kind of wild to me too. She thought he blocked his cell phone. Now, I don't know. I've never had an affair before. I don't know how these things work. But I thought that was weird. If everything's going great, you're planning on being together on January 4th and discussing your 1, 3, 5-year plan, why would you think she would block your cell phone? I don't know. Maybe it's a nothing burger. Maybe he's like self-conscious about it because he knows it's wrong. And he's like, maybe she decided it's wrong, or, some other stuff we're going to find out later. He told her, maybe he's like, just cut it off. I don't know. Iceman said, Peter, me personally, I didn't buy a whole lot of this guy and he seemed off-putting. I didn't buy most of his story. I don't think he was helpful. You're not alone. There's a lot of people in the chat that agree. There's a lot that disagree as well. This one seems like split, which happens sometimes with big witnesses. She got a townhouse with rooms for the kids, though. She was planning on taking the kids. I'm moving to DC without him, which means he goes to jail. I think that's the motive. I don't know. I don't feel like anybody has said who did she tell, including this guy. I don't think she told anybody she's planning on taking the kids to DC without Brian Walsh. Did anybody testify to that? I might be missing it. But I don't know. Debbie said, I knew you were going to pause. It kind of made me go, yeah, it was weird.
Did she ever answer you?
She did not.
Were you concerned?
I was.
Did you have any contact with Brian Walsh after you sold the townhouse to Anna?
I may have had a call or two with him discussing the townhouse. I don't really recall. It would have been dealing with property matters. And then he called me on January 4th.
And did you answer that call?
I did not.
What did you do?
I pushed the call to my voicemail.
Why'd you do that?
I was in an intimate relationship with his wife. I had not heard from her in several days. And frankly, I was concerned that maybe he had found out and was calling to confront me.
That was, I don't want to be too judgmental or pushy. That's the worst thing I've ever heard another man say. Like, oof. I think that he was helpful to the Commonwealth in some points. I think they absolutely had to call him. So I think you have to call him. But I do think the jurors probably had mixed reviews on him as well. I had mixed reviews within his testimony where some things I really liked, some things I really didn't like.
Did he leave you a voicemail?
No.
Did you call him back?
I did not, but he called me a few hours later again.
When was that?
A few hours after the initial call, so maybe mid-morning, noonish. I couldn't tell exactly.
And did you answer that second call?
No, I pushed that to voicemail as well.
Did Brian Walsh leave you a voicemail?
The second time he did.
And did you provide that voicemail to law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
And Gray Bookworm, it's a great point. If we were sitting in the jury room together, it's a great point. Definitely seems as on. I don't think that's something a guy would lie about, right? And there's another thing coming later that makes him look bad that I thought showed honesty and credibility.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the voicemail be the next.
Any objection?
So here's the voicemail from Brian Walsh.
No, Your Honor.
The voicemail message from Brian Walsh to William Fasto is now in evidence as Exhibit 148.
I'd ask Ms. Gilmer to play that now.
Good afternoon, Willie. This is Brian Walsh. I hope all is going well. I was just reaching out to basically everybody I could. Anna hasn't been in touch for a few days. I spoke to work today. She hasn't been in. She went to the house and she wasn't there. It was like she's been there recently. So just wondering if you've spoken to her in the near, recently, like Sunday or the last 2 days. Just so let me know, or if you know anyone that might have had contact with her, calling everyone. So sorry to bother you. Sure, everything's fine.
If you can't hear it, it's the same BS that we're going to hear again later. He's calling all these people, pretending he can't find Anna. He doesn't know where she is, and that's what he did with Fasto as well.
And you reach 617-929-8646.
What did you do after receiving that voicemail, sir?
I immediately called Brian back.
And what happened when you called Brian back?
I told him that I was concerned. We had discussed that Anna had been missing since New Year's Day. And I was actually driving at the time that I made the call. I told him that I was nearby the house and that I could stop by the house and check to see if she was there, if that would be beneficial.
And what did you, did you do that?
I did.
And
So he checks the house. She's not there. He checks it again later. Still not there. No car, nothing. Joanne said maybe he thought she changed her mind, but weird BW let him in the house. There's so many things in this case and about this case that I don't understand. That just seems so weird. Sick Reeves said, feels like many people are confusing guilty as in, did he do it? 99% sure, yes, with a legally guilty verdict as in, did they prove it? Not yet. It's often something that is misconstrued, but we try to really focus on it legally here in this channel. Then they had him identify her necklace and watch and other things. And of course, he says he hasn't seen her since December 25th of 2022. Then we get to cross-examination. The female lawyer, who I thought did a really good job on cross, was like, you ever argue with your wife about money? So Brian and Anna argued about money one time. Big deal, basically. She also, I think, set the stage that Brian was going to come with Anna to DC. That was always the plan. Publicly, neither one of them outed each other as being together. It's not something they were sharing publicly. It's not something they were telling people. And then they get into whether or not Brian Walshe ever knew about this affair. And this is the difference between inferences and proving it. Because I think she did a pretty good job of pointing out the defendant's point of view on this. Did Brian Walshe actually know about the affair? Let me know what you guys think.
Anna, how quickly did it go from friends to more than friends?
Fairly quickly.
Bless you. So were you intimate with her after a week, after a month? When did you start becoming intimate?
To be honest, I don't remember the exact moment, but I
Okay.
know it was very shortly after her move to Washington, D.C.
Okay. You had mentioned, I think, that things had gotten more serious in July, so it had been going on for a few months at that point.
That's correct.
So from the spring of 2022 through New Year's Eve of 2022, during your conversations or time with Anna Walshe, she never told you that Brian was suspicious of you.
I had asked Anna what Brian's reaction would be if she
My
ever found
question
out.
is not what you asked her. My question is, at no point did she ever come to you concerned and say, I think my husband knows I have an affair or he's suspicious of you?
We had one episode where Brian called me while we were out to dinner, and I showed the phone to Anna because it was unusual for Brian to call me. Anna then later called Brian, and Brian had claimed that one of their children had taken his phone and called me by accident. That would be the closest thing that had happened where we felt concerned that maybe Brian had found out.
So I guess I'm not asking if you felt.
Okay. That's something. If I'm back there, if I'm a juror and you argue with me and you're saying he knew because of that call, okay. That's a fact. That's a breadcrumb. I think that helps get us a little closer. I don't think it'd be enough for me on my own thinking about it, but I can understand if some people say that. Samantha said, I know he Googled his name, but to be honest, I feel like Brian Walshe would have Googled, what do you do when your wife cheats with a realtor if he knew? I mean, at this point, we think we know Brian Walshe, but we probably actually don't. PJ said, easy Law and Order episode, jealous husband, open, shut. So you know what? This is why they want to go with these motives. Tale as old as time. Money, jealousy, greed, trying to get the life insurance policy, finding out about an affair. She was trying to take the kids from me. Those are just the most common stereotypical motives. And so when you can present that to a jury and they don't like a guy and they want to convict a guy, they're like, yep, I'll take that one. And they run with it.
Concerned. I mean, you're having an illicit affair. You're always kind of concerned someone's going to find out, right?
I mean, I suppose.
My question to you is, did Anna ever text you or call you and say, oh, I think Brian is suspicious that I'm having an affair?
Anna never texted or called me and said that she felt that Brian knew that we were having an affair.
You had mentioned that you had introduced or socialized with your friends and Anna Walshe.
Yes.
The friends that you had that you would socialize with Anna Walshe, they weren't connected to Brian in any way.
No, except for Jem Mutlow.
Okay, and did Jem Mutlow ever come to DC?
He did not, but we
Sometimes you guys in the chat make me almost spit out my water. Okay, literally, that just almost happened.
had correspondence.
Okay, and as far as you know, well, let me ask you this. You didn't tell Jem Mutlow about your relationship with Anna.
I don't recall.
You don't recall.
So I do see a lot of people saying he hired a PI or he had his mother hire a PI. He was suspicious. I'm waiting for that to come out, right? I don't know how that evidence is going to be presented. So I'm trying to stick with what we've seen presented at the time. Obviously, that'll be a big piece.
Okay. Anna never told Jem Mutlow about your relationship.
I'm sorry, is that the question?
It sure is.
I don't know what Anna told Jen Mutlow or what she didn't.
So Jen Mutlow was the reason you guys met, right?
Correct.
You guys, or you were good friends?
I would say that we were professional associates.
Okay.
Actually, let me couch that. I would say we were friends.
He's like, we were professional associates. Actually, we were friends. We were friends. Again, I think he is trying to be honest. I think that's a good point. I really do think he's trying to be honest.
Okay. Did you and Anna ever socialize with Jem Mutlow together?
Not to my knowledge, no. Not that I recall.
So did you ever go to dinner with Jem and hold hands with Anna, flirt with her in front
No.
of Jem? No. So would it be fair to say that you were keeping this from a mutual friend of yours?
I don't know if I was keeping it from him. Jen Mutlow and I had numerous conversations during the time that I knew Anna. We've had conversations following Anna's disappearance. And frankly, it's a little difficult for me to tell you what Jem knew or when or what I told him. I mean, this is something that's played out over 3 years. So
Your answer is you don't know if you ever told Jem Mutlow about your romantic relationship with Anna Walsh.
I don't know if I told her before she disappeared.
Okay. So you talked to him after?
Yes,
And you told him after that you were in a romantic relationship
he certainly knew after that we were in a romantic relationship.
because you told him?
Yes, I believe so.
But you don't know if you told him when you and Anna were dating.
I cannot recall if I told him before or after.
Okay. You had mentioned on direct that you and Anna had conversations about your future.
Yes,
And going into the Christmas holidays, I know you were going to Idaho. Anna Walsh was planning to head back. At that point, there was never any specific plan for Anna to tell Brian about her relationship with you.
not that I'm aware.
Well, you've been asked questions and testified about this before, right?
That's correct.
And when you testified, am I correct that either Mr. Connor or Ms. Yaz were asking you questions about the nature of your relationship with Mrs. Walsh?
Is this reference to the grand jury testimony?
In fact, let me probably ask you this. Have you had a chance before you flew up today to review your grand jury testimony?
I reviewed my grand jury testimony with the state via a call that was, I think, over a month or two ago.
Okay. So you were specifically asked in March of 2022 if there was any specific plan to tell Brian about your relationship with Anna, and you told the grand jury that day that there was not.
That is correct.
So there was no plan as Anna went home for Christmas to be with her family that she was going to come clean and tell Brian about you.
As I said, there was no plan that I was aware of.
She never told you, hey,
Okay, I mean, I'm going to back it up. This is important to me. Like, if she was planning on leaving Brian, if she was planning on coming to DC without Brian to be with this guy, like, don't you think she'd have a conversation with this guy about it? And she never did. And he tried to be like, oh, I'm not sure. No, maybe she didn't. And then she impeached him with his grand jury testimony. Some people are saying, we'll keep moving.
With the state via a call that was, I think, over a month or two ago.
okay. So you were specifically asked in March of 2022 if there was any specific plan to tell Brian about your relationship with Anna, and you told the grand jury that day that there was not.
That is correct.
So there was no plan as Anna went home for Christmas to be with her family that she was going to come clean and tell Brian about you.
As I said, there was no plan that I was aware of.
She never told you, hey, Will, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna talk to Brian. I'm gonna blow up my marriage and come be with you. She never told you that.
That is correct.
She didn't tell you, I really want to tell him I just want to be with you before she went home for Christmas.
Objection.
Sustained.
That is correct.
He answered it anyways. He didn't have to. But I think those are great points for the defense. I do. From someone whose spouse cheated, there are signs Brian knew. And I think a lot of jurors may think like that. Unfortunately, in the law, it's got to be proven to you. You can't just be like, oh, I've been cheated on before, so everybody, finds out because there are signs. Like, that's not how you're supposed to do it, but sometimes they do, and I understand it. I do understand it. You bring your own experiences into this. Ginger said, maybe unpopular. I don't feel they've proven premeditated M. I do think he killed Anna, though. I don't think that's as unpopular as you think in this chat. I think people are still open to that, but there's still a lot left for the Commonwealth to present here. The case is not done. Jody said, I think she was done with Brian. the fraud, spending money, and basically using the kids to keep them on house arrest as the primary caregiver. Jody, sometimes something like this happens. You might be done with him. I might be done with him. We all might look at Brian Walshe and be like, that guy's a loser. I don't want anything to do with him. But I don't feel like they've presented full evidence yet proving that that's how Anna Walshe felt. And I think there's more coming with William Fasto that kind of confirms that. We're going to jump to another small section of cross here.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, or good morning again. Before the break, we were talking about whether or not there was any definitive plan for Anna to tell Brian about your relationship. I want to talk to you a little bit more about conversations that you did have with her in which she told you that if Brian was going to find out, she wanted it to be from her, right?
Yes.
And that it would really upset her if he found out any other way.
Yes.
To the point where it would devastate her if Brian ever found out that she was having an affair.
Yes.
And you had mentioned, I think on direct, that you had conversations about a future together,
Yes.
but you never had extensive concrete conversations about being together and when that would happen.
Correct.
And at this time frame, that summer, fall, and winter of 2022, you were also in no position to openly start a new relationship with another person.
If you mean that I had not finalized my divorce, that is correct.
No, you were in a position that because your older son would have been devastated if you started bringing another woman around.
Yes, I did say that.
And if I'm correct,
So it wasn't just Anna that wasn't ready to commit a 1, 3, 5-year plan. This guy was telling Anna, I'm not really ready to commit because my son is not ready to see me with somebody else, which is totally understandable, but shines and sheds a different light on this whole 1, 3, 5-year plan. Yeah, we were getting really serious. Like, she's going to leave Brian. I mean, he didn't say this, but she's going to leave Brian for me. And that's why he got so mad. Like, something doesn't fully jive with me about the differences on direct and cross with this. But I do think some of what he said and some of what's coming later does add to that. I think there are more breadcrumbs now that Brian Walshe could have known about this affair than before he testified, which I do think is really important. Really important to put him on the stand.
I believe on page 36 of Exhibit 145, which are text messages that you turned over. Oh, apologize. No, it is 36. And this is, the text message that you turned over, just to be clear, are from December 29th of 2022 through January 5th of 2023.
I assume that's correct.
Want me to approach so you can look at it?
Sure.
You certainly may.
Am I correct in the text messages that you provided? It starts at December 29th of 2022?
Yes, that's what it says on the cover page here.
And on page 36, and I can approach again if you need it, you say, he can't imagine me with someone else. Like all children of separated parents, he deeply wants us to reconcile. Introducing him to someone else would destroy that fantasy. It would crush him now, right?
Yes.
And that was right around Christmas time and New Year's that you texted Anna Walshe that.
Yes.
So you had no intentions of having any immediate plans to openly start dating Anna Walshe with your 2 young boys.
Correct.
You were a concerned dad. You loved your son. You were protective of his feelings.
Yes.
At the same time you were having conversations just about her marriage and your relationship, you knew that it was always a possibility after having these conversations that Anna would stay with Brian, the father of her children.
Yes.
And while she would talk,
I mean, some people in an affair would probably be like, no way, she was absolutely going to leave him. And he didn't say that.
to you about arguments they had about finances or the stress of his federal case, she always spoke to you about him in a positive light.
Yes.
I mean, that's wild. To speak about your husband, who's Brian Walshe, in a positive light with the guy you're having an affair with. I mean, to me, it's a little bit mind-blowing to me.
Federal case, she always spoke to you about him in a positive light.
Yes.
And you knew from her words, that she cared for him deeply.
Very much so.
And I believe during these times when you would talk about her relationship with Brian Walshe, she wanted everyone to see him in the light that she saw him.
Very much so.
It's wild.
The text messages that you turned over to the police, is it fair to say that the police asked you questions about whether or not you had any information that Mr. Walsh had discovered your affair with his wife?
Yes, I'd say that's fair.
Okay. And you understood that anything that could help them in determining if Mr. Walsh had discovered your relationship, you would turn over or it would be helpful.
Yes,
And so I asked you about Facebook and you said you don't remember.
that's correct.
Well, so you don't remember if you would send any flirtatious, sexy, or intimate messages or posts on Facebook? Isn't that something you would remember if you're trying to keep it a secret?
I don't recall if I used Facebook Messenger as a means of communication with Anna Walsh. I would periodically delete messages. I don't recall if I had deleted messages from Facebook. I had certainly deleted messages from Instagram and text messages I had had over the term of our relationship.
Well, why are you deleting stuff?
Honestly, I said things to Anna that I might have found embarrassing that I just didn't want to look at, so I would delete the messages.
You weren't.
I don't think you would lie about that. I think that's an honest comment. It's like an adverse statement, right? So he deleted some of his own stuff. I think the important thing about this is, and the distinction is, Brian Walsh was seeing some messages on Facebook, not her iMessage text messages. That's what the defense is trying to explain. Like, he didn't see any text message. He didn't know about the affair. No affair talk happened on Facebook. I don't know though, because some of that is kind of confusing to me. Just like some of the other evidence today was a little bit confusing to me as well. Okay, next up, we had the witness from the painting company. Brian Walsh sent him a text of the hole in the ceiling, wanted him to do work on that. Then we had the bar studio owner, and she testified that Anna Walsh had a membership, was healthy, was great at doing bar. Then we also had, I don't think we necessarily needed both of these people to come and testify, but we also had a bar instructor, this lady. I don't think we needed both of them, like I said, but she came and testified to just how healthy Anna Walsh is. It's kind of funny. My wife has done some like Pilates, I think it's Pilates classes recently, and she like explains what the instructors are like. And this lady is like to a T exactly how Whitney explains how her Pilates instructors are, and how excited that, you know, everybody in class is like when you get no notes. So we're going to listen to her a little bit because she's going to talk about how healthy Anna Walsh is. And then the defense is going to come across and be like, okay, fine. But how important is that actually to the jury? What are we actually proving to the jury?
Anna Walsh perform during that class?
She was,
And do you remember how long that class was?
that was a 45-minute class.
And how did Anna Walsh perform during that class?
She was a powerhouse. Clients are given the option during my setup that they can do push-ups on their hands and knees, hands and feet, or up at the bar for a modification. And she was doing the push-ups on the balls of her feet, on her hands. She was completing the motions. She was someone that you wanted to take class with because she made you work harder.
Did you notice any injuries on her during your class on December 31st of 2022?
No, and she did not make me aware of any that would change any of the exercises that we were doing.
And after the class was over, what interactions did you have with Ms. Walsh?
We chatted, and actually I remember having to tell her, I'm so sorry, I can't finish our conversation because the next class was starting. So there was at least 15 to 20 minutes between when her class ended and the next one started.
And what, if anything, did she say about coming to the gym?
And this was the last class Anna took, so they're trying to show she was perfectly fine. No unexpected, unintended death issue here.
Future?
So she had been so excited to see me because she had told me that I was one of her favorite instructors, and she was so happy to see that I was in Hingham. She was planning on coming to a lot more, and she wanted to know my schedule.
And have you seen Anna Walsh since Saturday, December 31st,
I have not.
2022? If I might just have one moment, Your Honor.
Afternoon.
When was the last time you spoke to the prosecutors or police about your testimony today?
August, I believe.
Okay. You didn't speak to them today or yesterday?
No.
Okay. And you had mentioned that you are a special education teacher?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And then you also still teach bar?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're a mom?
I am.
Okay. Are you, and I'm not trying to be flip with you, but you're not a doctor?
No,
You're not a nurse.
I am not.
She's like, I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but you're not a doctor, you're not a nurse.
Did you perform any type of medical tests on Anna Walsh on December 31st?
No, I did not.
Are you aware if she had any pulmonary issues that were undiagnosed?
Not that I saw.
Are you a pulmonologist?
I am not.
Are you aware of any undiagnosed cardiac issues that she may have had on December 31st?
No.
Are you aware of any neurological issues that she may have been suffering from on December 31st?
No.
And prior to December 31st, what was the last date that you saw Anna Walsh?
I couldn't tell you.
Over a year?
Probably.
Nothing further, Judge.
Any redirect.
So I think this witness handled it absolutely perfectly. The lawyer's a bit demeaning, being like, you're not a doctor, but it's also true and important that you're not like a cardiologist who said her heart was perfectly fine. You're saying she looked fine on the outside and was able to work out. People like that drop dead of heart attacks all the time or strokes or whatever. So it's still possible. So I understand what the lawyer was doing, but it might have rubbed some jurors the wrong way. But I think you had to ask the questions and I think they were appropriate. But the witness handled it perfectly. She's like, yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what I saw. Then we had another witness who was like at the nail salon with Anna Walsh. I thought she was kind of a nothing burger. I don't think they needed to call her. Then the kinder care worker, 3 boys enrolled. Brian and the mom would drop them off. Anna would pick them up on Fridays. I think she said sometimes. January 3rd and 4th, Walsh was a little different during drop off. He was rushed. On cross, they got her to say that Walsh was really invested in his son's lives. Then we got to the video of the dumpster. This is the person who was basically the do-it-all at this apartment complex. So we'll watch this video.
Ms. Gilman.
So that's the Walsh Volvo, I believe.
Ms. Gilman, could you pause? All right. Now, Ms. Waldrop, I have some questions about your videos in and of themselves.
Yes.
The date on the video, what is the in January?
That at some for some reason.
Miss.
So it shows the time he came and left. There's the Volvo.
Thank you. Ms. Waldrop, before you, if you could just pause at this point in time. Ms. Waldrop, where are we looking at the Claremont apartment complexes in this second video?
So this is the right when you come to the back. This is actually at the bottom of the hill or the backside where the 2 dumpsters are located in that fence.
So here are the dumpsters on the video. If you can't see it perfectly, I think you kind of get the idea of where this is going, and I'll explain it as we watch. Lauren said, for me, his many shopping trips and Google searches after the M contradict the premeditation argument. Whatever he did, it clearly wasn't planned. I think this is interesting because to have this conversation in the chat, Lauren, with some people that disagree, I think that could be very likely what happens back in the jury room. Like discuss premeditation. Pilates, I'm sorry, you don't deserve doubt because you disposed of the evidence that she died. I am always 100% prove it state, but they can't hear because of what he did. This is the tough balance of, the fact that there's a separate crime for that, but also that the cover-up sometimes is worse than the crime, and how will the jury deal with that? The bloody slippers leans towards the direction that he ended her life impulsively and then panicked. I mean, this whole thing is so messy, or he's absolutely the worst criminal. 2 very, very reasonable options. Corey, hey, brother, it seems so wild how compartmentalized this potential sociopath must be to act in this manner pre and post incident. Huh? Cheers. 100% agree with how he's acting, dropping the kids off and walking around Lowe's and in the interviews with the police and calling people. Like if he really did find out about Fasto and Anna's life, dismantle her, hide her around, lie to police, then call Fasto and like, hey, bro, have you seen Anna? Because she's been missing for a couple days. Shoot me back a text or a call. If you see her, can you drop by our house in DC? Like that's wild. It's wild. So Brian calls her realtor, who he doesn't suspect is having an affair with, 3 days after he admits he hacked her up looking for her. Yeah, I agree with you. Those are some of the breadcrumbs working in that direction. I agree.
Area right there.
In that fenced area. And you said they're gated. Is there a lock to them or anything like that?
No.
And what access do you give the general public to your dumpsters? It's people who don't live there. Can they use them?
No, they're not supposed to. No, and there's signs that it's private property and they are on surveillance. I mean, it's on surveillance, so they're not meant to use our dumpsters. No.
Could you first play this, Gilman?
That's Brian Walsh walking to and from the dumpster, throwing stuff in there. Tough watch. It's definitely a tough watch. And I think it's probably a tough watch for the jury as well. It's brutal. Then we get to Connor Keefe, who's MSP. We know him. This testimony, I thought, was hard to follow because they did the thing I hate when they do, which is they use the last 4 digits of the phone number. What I would do is once you establish the last 4 digits of that phone number, have the contact name X, I would use the contact name X. That's what I would do. He nudged her and she fell out of bed. That's one hell of a nudge. She fell out of bed. I agree with you. And his story makes me think he's more guilty than if he didn't come up with any story like that at all. So I do agree. I mean, that stuff is just going to make it so bad. I think when he's on the stand, it's going to be so bad. But some of the searches and text messages that Keith went over were pretty damning. We are at the hour mark. I do have to go get dinner. Everybody hit that like button. We're going to go for a couple more minutes. We're almost done here. But I thought this testimony was hard to follow. Not really incredibly engaging who was texting who. But on December 25th, to Google William Fasto, to me, definitely evidence the jury can infer Brian Walsh knew about the affair. I think that was important evidence that they highlighted here. And then he's Googling JetBlue flights. And he's Googling, basically it seems like he's doing research on things happening in DC to try and figure out if that affair is happening from my perspective. So that was some important evidence, I thought, to, again, start to get towards that affair, start to get towards that motive and proving motive, which I think is going to be important for intentional premeditated homicide if they get there. Then he Googles how to file a missing persons report. Oh, very weird searches. Anna Walsh found dead, Googled on Christmas Day. Plane crash, Christmas Day plane crash. Very, very weird searches on Christmas Day. Right? Did any of you think those were incredibly weird? Like, why is he searching that on Christmas Day before she dies? That's really weird. Michelle said he's definitely not testifying. He's cooked even worse than. I think there's a 0% chance that he wins if he doesn't testify. I think there's a 0.1% chance he wins if he does testify. There might be one juror out there that believes his story. I doubt it, but it's possible. Then again, more conversations of him asking people if they had seen Anna, if they had heard from Anna, where Anna is, etc., etc. I know people keep saying he had her hire a private eye. That has not come out in evidence yet. So we're waiting to comment on that until if and when it comes out in evidence. Will the Commonwealth be able to have lesser included considered or only intentional M charge? I think they'll be able to have lesser included. I haven't heard a definitive answer on whether or not those will be included on the verdict form as of yet. Sick Reeve says the misogyny has jumped out tonight. Many of the comments about Anna here are gross and disappointing. Chat, do better, chat. I have not been able to follow the entire chat because I've been watching the video, but hopefully not. Nobody's blaming Anna for what happened to her at all. Frankly, the way she spoke about Brian seemed like she still loved Brian Walsh, which is strange to me based on what we know about him, right? But hey, the father of her children, been married a long time. All of this is a really tough watch. This case is not easy. There's a lot of mess around it. But I think the Commonwealth did take steps forward, proving motive, proving that maybe you can infer that he knew about the affair. I think that is very important because I don't think they did a lot of that the first 3 days. And that's been something the defense has harped on as well. Okay. That's all we got, folks. That's all we got. I appreciate you coming in here. I appreciate you discussing tough topics. Let's keep it appropriate. Let's keep it not personally attacking people, especially victims in the case. Iceman said, Peter, as an aside on Keith, due to Karen Reed's civil trial, I felt he was being extremely careful in how he testified. I kind of felt a little tinge of that myself. I did. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me. Thank you for hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel. It helps us out a ton. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's easy. Takes one click. But hopefully you'll stick around. Come hang out, doing daily recaps, and to hear my dad's take on this crazy case on Monday for the podcast. But that's all we got for now. Until next time, peace out. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. And if you have a case that you want to personally talk to us about in your life, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, truck accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos.